Okay, let's continue the journey in Defend Like Petrosian, written by Alexei Bexgodov, with another game that Petrosian lost. I like that the author is not afraid to put games that Petrosian lost, because generally when they make biographies, they only put games that the author won. It doesn't make any sense. However, like in the previous game, I think he didn't do a good job in pointing out where he lost in that opening. That we saw that queen a5, that then it had to return back, and so on and so forth. But here we have Isaac Boleslavsky against Tigran Petrosian at the Gagra training tournament in 1953. This is a Sicilian defense. And he starts to say he almost saved a position a pawn down, but. So Boleslavsky plays e4, Petrosian c5, knight f3, d6, bishop b5, check, knight c6, castle, bishop g4, c3. Obviously, this is a pin, but he tries to seize the center, okay? Because also this is pinned. Knight f6, h3, bishop h5, d4, a6. And now you need to give up that bishop, obviously. Why? Because otherwise you cannot keep everything at the same time. Bishop takes e6, b takes e6, and now queen a4 attacking the pawn on c6 and removing the queen from the pin. However, this is kind of an interesting situation, right? You don't have enough time to take, because it would take here with check. And then you have to play knight d7, otherwise you lose this rook. Queen b6, d takes c5. Wow. And here I think it's nice to stop a second and think, what would you play if you were Petrosian? What would you play if you were Petrosian? Because you see, if you play queen takes c5, there is a problem, right? That probably plays bishop e3 attacking it. Then you have to play queen b5. Or maybe not. After this, maybe b4 immediately, and queen b5. What could it be? I don't know. It seems that he didn't play that. You know what he played? He played queen b5. Wow. That's kind of interesting. And here, in my opinion, he should have put a note to explain to us why, what was going on if he take, right? At least tell us this. Again, I'm also reviewing the books, guy, because I want to be sure that you get the maximum for your bucks. But I think sometimes they miss an editor that actually read the book and ask some question to the author. But why? I mean, this is logical, right? What happened after queen takes c5? Okay, queen takes b5, a takes b5, c takes d6, e takes d6. And here we have a diagram, and it says a very weakly played opening by black has led already to a technically lost position after 30 moves, but Tigran Petrosian ingenuity now almost saves the day. Okay, Rook e1. So it says that here there was a better move for white. Eventually pause the video and try to think what you would have played. In reality, white should have played this, knight d4, because this avoids the double pawn, the isolated pawn, and so on, right? And attacks this. You cannot play c5 because it would takes on b5, so he clearly has to play this, and then you play this move. So it was a question of move order. Instead, white played rook e1. Notice that Boleslavsky was also grandmaster level in 1953. So imagine how poor was the technique or the thinking if someone that is at 2500 doesn't think of playing knight d4. Who knows what was the time control? I don't know, but I don't think they were playing in a short time control, because here it says a training tournament. Well, I'm sure they were playing long time control. In the time, 1953, they didn't have the idea that Blitz would save the day and the interest in chess, or that they had to involve some people in chess and so make special categories and so on. No, in that time, you know, the Soviet Union thought this was their show-off, showing that the communist system or socialist system was the best, thanks to the fact that their players were the best in the world to play chess. And so obviously they were putting a lot of money in it, selecting kids from the school that were especially interested in the game. You would say talented, but it's not question of talent. If you love the game, you will become good, especially if you're a kid. If you don't love the game, no amount of money can make you become good. G takes f3, bishop e7. Once more we see the problem, right? You take and then you have this block, but strangely he didn't play that. He played knight a3, knight d7, probably to prevent that, knight c2, knight e5, king g2, and king d7. And once more rook d1. And here we have a diagram. And now you see, this is the thing. Here, honestly, yeah, black might have a technically lost position, but white really has a bad pawn structure, and you mash it up again with this, because imagine when you have 3 pawns on the same file, well, it becomes an easy target, right? Here it says a bold and enterprising continuation in return for a second pawn. Black gets a certain amount of counterplay. E takes f5. It made sense to prefer, obviously, instead of this, bring this freaking knight into the game, no? Notice that also this is still out, this cannot get out of there because this is weak, so you have to solve the problem of that pawn e2. I don't know. Okay, so e takes f5, d5, bishop f4, oh, finally is able to bring the bishop out, knight c4 attacking b2, b3, knight d6, and obviously now if you want to keep all this pawn on the same file, you have to give up something. A nice bishop. Knight takes d6, king takes d6. Very interesting move. By modern standards, this position can be considered almost equal. However, at the very moment of achieving his aim, Petrosian relaxes. Was this due to the specifics of what was a training tournament? Yeah, I don't know what was a training tournament, but this is 1953. We don't know the precise date if this tournament was played before the Zurich candidate. Let me pause and show you this. So this is probably maybe the most famous tournament in history. Why most famous? Because it was written, this book, obviously they say by David Bronstein, but probably it's not true, in the sense that David Bronstein only reread it and gave his approval. Maybe it was written by a candidate master in the former Soviet Union. Why is this tournament important? Because it's what it teaches you everything about chess. So today they would tell you, no, you need to learn chess patterns, you need to learn space repetition. Well, Fischer, Larsen, whatever grandmaster, legendary grandmaster of the period before space repetition, they would have learned chess reading this book. Yes, you have to read it cover to cover. It will give you grandmaster level if you, instead of following the annotation that teach you everything, analyze the games by yourself. So you need to have a kind of flashcard to cover the moves and try to play and guess the move. In any case, Petrosian was in this tournament. Boleslavsky was in this tournament. So it makes sense that the game we are seeing was played as a training for that great tournament. And so nothing. I think maybe that is the thing that we are talking about here, okay? A4, the game continues with A4, B takes A4, B takes A4. Now, this is an isolated pawn, this is an isolated pawn, these are three isolated pawns, and this is an isolated pawn. Generally, this pawn structure is bad compared to Petrosian that has these pawns all together, right? But the difference is that white has 2 pawns advantage. The difference is that there are no queens on the board to create a really chaos and attack at all costs. And so it's a problem. And this is a pass pawn. Pass means that something will need to block it. So you will have to use 5 points or 3 points to block one. I don't know. Clearly, as you can see, there are some problems here, right? Bishop f6, rook a3, and rook a5. So he wants to double on this line, right? c4. So this rook doesn't have to defend this anymore, and this is pin, right? Then there is the problem that you cannot really go here to defend this when it's double because of the bishop. And that's why, as you can see, bishops are very powerful because differently from the knight, it can project his power very far, right? And now black plays rook c5. Interesting move. Knight e3, defending this. d4. Rook a d3. Rook a8. Knight g4. Here it's a very interesting situation, and as black you have 2 choices at least. One is rook takes a4 that was played in the game, but it seems that there was a better move for black. Here it says the better move is rook takes f5, knight takes f6, obviously because this was going to go down, g takes f6 because maybe he wants to open the file so he can take other pawns, rook takes d4. At this point you don't play this, because otherwise you really lose immediately. You have obviously to go up to avoid further check thanks to this pawn. So often, and that's why I tell you, and I make fun of some stuff like space repetition and so on, it's because you need to understand what every piece on the board is doing. If you don't understand that, you are missing really the gist of the position and what you have to do, right? It's a mess. Rook h4, rook takes e4, rook takes h7, and now you have rook e3, and here the evaluation is that there is equality, but the position is very unclear, and that's the symbol used by the author to evaluate this position. Obviously I don't know where he got it from, but as you can see, this can fall down. If it falls down, this will become a pass pawn. Yes, there is another pass pawn here, but as you can see, with two rooks things can become a little messy. So maybe it was really more interesting, this position. It would be interesting to know where I got this line from a computer, from what Petrosian analyzed, I don't know. Let's return into the game. Okay, so we saw that in the game was played rook takes e4. The best move from the analysis given here, it seems, was rook takes f5. So rook takes e4, knight takes f6, obviously. And you can understand maybe why rook takes f5 is the best, because it gives a counterplay. Okay, otherwise here you don't have counterplay. After this is played, how do you create counterplay? Probably that's maybe the problem of this situation, right? Rook e4, king takes f5, rook d4. So he saved this. You see the difference. So we can see the huge difference with the analysis, where the king was here and the two rooks were able probably to go there and attack that king, compared to here that there is no attack on the enemy king. At the same time, however, we see that what changed. Well, before white was with 6 pawns against 4, now is with 4 pawns against 3. But of these 4 pawns, 2 are on the same, so they value like 1, so it could be 3 against 3, right? h5, rook d6, rook a takes c4, and this is honestly, I feel this game is teaching us more, because watch this, rook e6. So as you can see, is also teaching us a rook endgame. Beautiful, right? King g5, rook takes f6, rook c1, f4. Clearly it's a bad situation for that king. King h4, rook d3. And now there is a huge mistake by Petrosian. What is the big mistake? We are at move 38. Generally the time control at move 40, so 2 moves from now. It may be that he was short on time. Now, in my opinion, you should really pause the video and try to find a good move for black, because this is not a joke, it can happen in your games. Petrosian played rook 5 c3, that is a blunder. Okay. Why it's a blunder? Well, you will see it because it enters in a mating net, what is called a mating net. But let's see what should have been played. It should have been played rook d5, rook g3, sorry, rook g3, and rook c4. and white cannot really make a big difference. But instead he played rook 5 c3, and then he played this move. Notice the slight difference: rook c5 and rook h6. And you say, so what? What does it mean? Well, again, that's why you need to study the checkmates, a modern guide to checkmate pattern. So you really need to study something like this, okay? Why? Because guess what? This is checkmate. What? You cannot take. So this is checkmate. So that's kind of scary, right? Right here it's scary, because Petrosian lost a game that he could actually draw just for one single move at the end, right? So maybe he was tired, maybe he was unfocused, maybe he didn't eat much, who knows? But that rook 5 c3 was what gave up the game, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this game. Sorry if it was a little longer, but clearly we learn much more in here.